Good afternoon. Welcome to another episode of Spilling Tea. I'm your host, Tiffany Daniels, and very obviously, we are getting back to the Snake Oil Salesman series. But before we do, real quick disclaimers. Folks, for every little bit of this topic that we cover, you're going to find all the source information right there linked up for you in the description box. Should you like to do some deep research on the matter on your own and do a deep dive, definitely should be able to do so. Also, real quick, this channel is marked not for kids for a reason. First off, I do use profanity, and some of the topics we cover on this channel can be particularly triggering. So if you have someone that is 16 and younger and they are watching the channel, very obviously, parental supervision very much advised. We're going to recover some stuff, more than likely, because it's been a minute since I've gotten back to this, and then after that, we'll go ahead and continue on with the series. So, where we left off, we were reading Psychology Today. So, let's start off here. From the perspective of legitimate mental health professionals, providing evidence-based treatment for mental health concerns is an ethical imperative. It's almost damn near dogmatic and religious in nature when it comes to medical science. You rely on facts. You rely on things that have already shown that they've worked, right? The notion of evidence-based practice owes its history to a movement called evidence-based medicine, also known as EBM, which became fully articulated in 1992, consequently towards the very beginnings of the re-emergence of the anti-vax movement, which for some reason seems to go hand in hand with snake oil. When you turn away from the science, what you end up doing is dropping down the pseudoscience rabbit hole. And boy, does that hole go deep, dark, and disturbing quickly. So, when you have people saying, deny the authorities. But Tiff, you say deny the authorities all the time and that doctors don't know what they're doing. There's a lot of cases that is true. However, I am still going to trust a medical practitioner over someone with a Google degree. There is an in-between here, folks. We can call out incompetent doctors, but still overall rely more heavily on current medical science at the same time. They do not cancel one another out. There are good doctors and bad doctors, just like there's good people and bad people. But that doesn't mean that you throw the baby out with the bathwater. We've become a society, especially neurotypicals, yes, I'm going to say it, that is become far too susceptible to suggestion. And that should scare the hell out of you. But that doesn't mean go to the polar opposite direction either. This is what happens when we allow emotions to rule our head. You cannot live only using your head. You cannot live using only your heart. If you do not use both, the direction you're heading is not going to be anywhere good. This is just me speaking of personal experience. Alright. Number 1, the best available scientific evidence. Their own clinical judgment and experience. The preferences and values that patients bring. This is why I advocate for open lines of communication with your doctors 24/7. They are not clairvoyant. You know, just putting it out there. They're not superhuman. If you don't communicate with your doctor what's going on, or if a medication is working properly or not, or if there's complications, they're not just going to psychically know. Okay? Let's go ahead and continue here. The idea of evidence-based practice is now philosophically baked into the codes of ethics and legal standards of practice of bona fide mental health professions. such as psychology, psychiatry, social work, and nursing. The irksome reality is that non-evidence-based and pseudoscientific treatments for mental health concerns are promoted widely and used within various healthcare systems and outside of them. One of the worst things that has really made it explode starting in the 2000s onward has been social media, bar none. I get more advertisements for pseudoscience bullshit when I am on social media than anywhere else. And I'm bombarded with it now more than ever because our TVs are no longer detached from the internet. We have streaming TVs, and a lot of us watch YouTube now using our TVs. In fact, it's one of the primary things I do watch on said TV. And because of that, all this different pseudoscience nonsense, I'll have those commercials. We're just bombarded with it. And we are living now in a situation where we distrust our government. We distrust pretty much everybody that consider themselves an authority on anything. And it's angry folks. They feel like they've been lied to, and they have, but we're not talking about things rationally. Everything is just emotionally heated. Logic has gone out the window. It has been yeeted into the stratosphere. Okay? There is no common middle ground anymore. It's just people of emotional extremes tearing each other into shreds. And unfortunately, with us being so susceptible to suggestion, the more that there is repetition on our TVs with pseudoscience, the more likely, even if it's not ourselves, somebody in the household at some point will sink money into it and begin down the pseudoscience rabbit hole. And it's quite the rabbit hole. And pseudoscience, as we know, goes hand in hand with snake oil. Always has and always will. And they use a lot of those traits from the old traveling shows to appeal now when they do use things like YouTube and these fake commercials. But let's go ahead and continue here where we left off. It's not uncommon for mental health professionals to regularly encounter patients who have received such treatments, which can include unequivocal pseudoscientific practices such as naturopathy, energy medicine, neurolinguistic programming, past life regression therapy, etc. Now, I've never done, like, literally any of those, and I'm certainly not going to start now. But there are folks that do fall into those rabbit holes. And controversial ones that are in some cases more scientifically plausible but still plagued by low quality or mixed evidence to support their use, such as cannabis, psychedelics, mindfulness, 12-step programs, animal-assisted therapies, etc. Now, I rely very heavily on my emotional support cat over there. He actually does help calm me down. But if I did not have my Paxil medication, you want to talk about the neurotic, anxiety-ridden mess you all would have on your hands. That's a version of Tiffany I don't want any of you all to have to deal with. Just putting it out there. Well, the demarcation between science and pseudoscience has always remained fuzzy. It is in the service of safe, ethical, and competent patient care to critically appraise and identify potential pseudoscientific therapies for mental health concerns. In other words, I drink an extraordinary amount of kava tea. I do not rely on kava tea alone without any kind, shape, or form of supervision as my one-and-done cure for all that ails me. Neither should you. And it is why I keep that open conversation going with my doctor so they know that if I am on a supplement of any kind, what it is, how much I take it, what time of the day I take it, how does it interact with my medicine. And one of the reasons why that's so important is you do have medicines that can cancel out each other. One of the most notorious would be St. John's wort. I cannot take that and take the Paxil and expect the Paxil to do its job. Why this is, I don't know, but that's why my mom's in healthcare and I'm not. There's a reason that evidence-based practice is the foundation of our care models, and that's because adopting an approach to care that elevates pseudoscience can be harmful in at least 3 ways, and let's go ahead and go over those real quick. Number 1, it can directly produce harm. Chelation therapy for autistics being one of the biggest. If you don't actually have heavy metal poisoning, but you are applying that treatment because some moron on Google convinced you that it's because of lead your kid is autistic and you just need to remove it, you can actually kill someone with that type of therapy if you don't know what you're doing. Not to mention, it's completely unnecessary, painful, and useless. Let me tell you how I really feel. We're going to go ahead and finish this up for this one, folks. The idea behind using science to guide psychological practice is not new. Clinical psychology adopted science as an explicit value as early as 1947, when the idea that psychologists should be trained as both scientists and practitioners became the American Psychological Association policy, and it is true to this day. In 1949, the scientist-practitioner model, sometimes referred to as the Boulder model, was born at the Conference on Graduate Education in Psychology in Boulder, Colorado, to reflect the realization that psychologists should be trained in both research and clinical practice, and that these elements of our profession should inform each other, particularly when you are talking about mental health, because you really do sometimes need a combo of meds and the psychological help that you work through with your therapist at the same time. It's kind of the reason why I have both a psychologist and a psychologist. Let me continue here. Today, the term science practitioners refers to both a model of training and a model of practice. It means clinical psychologists should be skilled consumers of the scientific literature and possess both the ability and the willingness to incorporate that knowledge into their practice. It also champions the idea that psychologists have an ethical responsibility to promote and practice evidence-based patient care that is devoid of unequivocal pseudoscience and leery of its shades of gray. Or just going straight into the blacklist because it's pseudoscience, snake oil salesmen, they haven't gone the way of the dodo. It's simply changed form. And we're going to continue to dive deeper into that, but for right now, we're going to go ahead and close out for the day. So folks, we don't get very many views on this channel. The few we do tend to get removed from time to time. So folks, if you would be so kind, please don't forget to hit the like button, hit subscribe, don't forget to hit the comments, and make sure that you are still set up to receive notifications as we will be continuing this and down the rabbit hole series along with our regular videos on the JRC. We don't want you missing anything. We do appreciate your time. And as always, folks, we here at Spilling Tea do hope you have a good one. We'll see you all next time. Bye-bye, everyone.